found used protection in the car he was given the week before, so he decided to take brutal revenge. My husband ruined my life just because I cheated on him, and he found the evidence. Yes, he found the evidence in the form of used protection in the car. Disgusting as it sounds, it happened. I made a huge mistake and I got too careless, and now I'm paying dearly for it. I honestly don't know how I got here. I used to have a happy and loving home, but somehow my greed and lust made me lose everything. Everything happened so fast that it still feels like a dream. My husband found a used protection in the car he gifted me for my birthday, and he decided to ruin my life because of that. Hey Reddit, for the sake of privacy, I will be using fake names. My husband Anton, male 30, and I, female 27, have been married for 3 years now. Anton is the best thing that has ever happened to me in my life. He is the definition of a good man. Anton is not rich, but he makes sure I never lack anything. A few weeks ago, he got me my first car on my birthday, though not a fancy car, but I know he must have cleared all his savings to be able to afford that car. I accepted to marry Anton because I love him deeply and I thought love was enough. But after 3 years of being married, I discovered love wasn't enough to sustain marriage. I got bored with the routine and wanted more for myself. I became tired of eating the same food over and over, wearing the same kind of clothes, going to the same restaurant, and even using a taxi. Don't get me wrong, Anton is a loving and caring man, but he is very disciplined when it comes to money. He is the type that would prefer to eat in a cheap restaurant to save cost instead of going to a 5-hotel. Anton works as a sales rep for a reputable company. While his earnings might not really be up there, his stipends would have been enough to sustain us. But the student loans he took while he was schooling were eating up his stipends and making it hard for us to live large as I would have wanted. Even though Anton made sure he provided everything I wanted and that I never lacked anything, I still wanted more. Which is why I went back and started dating my ex-boyfriend. I wanted to live a luxurious life, and I didn't want to tax my husband Anton because I saw how he was struggling to meet my needs, so I decided to rekindle my relationship with my ex-boyfriend James. I broke up with James before I met Anton. James is very rich. The reason I broke up with him was that he is a serial cheat. While we were still dating, he cheated on me with numerous ladies. I decided to go back to him because I knew he was capable and could afford the luxurious things I wanted. This time I wasn't looking for a faithful boyfriend because I already had a faithful husband. I was looking for a wealthy man who could spoil me silly and bring the world to my feet. I went back to James and we started going out together. James knew I was married but didn't have any problem with that. Every day from school, James would pick me up and we would go out shopping or go to a 5-star restaurant to eat, and from there to his house. James lives in a private gated community, so we usually spent most time at his place because I didn't want anyone to see me with him, considering the fact that I was a married woman. I started coming home late and my husband became suspicious. He started monitoring me. I always lied to him that I was busy with schoolwork since I was in my final year in college. Before our marriage, Anton enrolled me in school because I dropped out of college a few years ago. When we met, Anton told me he wanted me to get a degree, so he enrolled me in school and has been sponsoring my education ever since. I was in my final year in college, so I always hid under the guise of rounding up my schoolwork to stay out late. Deep down, I knew Anton wasn't buying my lies because the man I married is very smart. My affair with James continued to blossom, and I even contemplated at a point leaving Anton for James. Anton would always spoil me with expensive gifts. I love him so much, even more than Anton, but my only problem with him was that he was a chronic womanizer. Fast forward to my 27th birthday, James planned a 3-day mini vacation to Maldives. I was very excited about the trip because not only would I be traveling out of Chicago for the first time, but I would also be spending some quality, uninterrupted time with James, something I have always fantasized about. My outing with James is always cut short because I'm always in a hurry to get back home so Anton would not suspect anything. So going on a vacation with James meant so much to me, he told me that was my birthday gift. I was excited about the trip, but at the same time I was sad because I didn't know what I would tell Anton that would make him allow me to go on the trip. Ever since we got married, we had always celebrated our birthdays together, so I didn't know how to break it to him that I would be traveling and wouldn't be around for my birthday. I decided to lie to Anton that my childhood friend was getting married and that I needed to be there. He was shocked when I told him I was traveling to Los Angeles for my childhood friend's wedding. He asked me why I was just informing him a day before I traveled. I told him it was an impromptu invitation and that I needed to be there. Somehow I managed to convince him and he gave me his approval. I would have still gone on the vacation if he didn't permit me to go, though. That was how eager I was to make that trip. The day finally arrived and I left home to go meet James at the airport. Anton wanted to see me off to the airport, but I told him there was no need because I would be going to the airport with a group of friends. I told him all the arrangements had been made and I wouldn't want to disappoint my friends by not going to the airport with them. Soon I arrived at the airport and met James waiting for me with our tickets. He was very excited to see me. We boarded the plane. It took us approximately 19 hours to arrive at Maldives. The stress and the long-distance journey were eventually worth it when I saw how beautiful the city was. James made reservations at a luxurious hotel. Everything about the Maldives is beautiful. I was enjoying myself and spending quality time with James. The next day, which was my birthday, Anton's video called around midnight. I bet he wanted to be the first to wish me a happy birthday, but I declined his call. Picking his call would ruin things for me. I ignored his calls. At one point, I had to silence my phone when the calls became too much and I went back to bed. A few hours later, at about 6 a.m., I went into the bathroom and called him. I apologized to him for missing his calls and told him I was sleeping when he called. He sounded kind of low at that point. It seemed he was beginning to suspect because he requested I call him on video call so he could speak with my friend who was getting married. I lied to him that my friend was getting dressed and I wouldn't want to disturb her. I had to lie to him that the service in the hotel we were lodged in was bad just to get off the call with him. I spent my birthday with James and everything was beautiful. The vacation was soon over and we returned to Chicago. I didn't even want to leave, but James promised me we would be back again some other time. So I arrived home not knowing there were surprises in stock for me. I arrived home and to my greatest surprise, I saw the house was decorated. Anton had organized a small birthday dinner for just me and him. Immediately I stepped in. He brought the birthday cake he had bought for me to cut. While cutting the car, I noticed there was something wrapped with foil inside the cake. I pulled it out and opened it and discovered it was a car key. I was confused because I didn't know what was happening. Anton took me to the garage and I saw a new car decorated with ribbons parked with a sign that said "Happy Birthday." I was too stunned to speak. I didn't even know when I started shouting and jumping up. It felt like a dream. Never in my wildest imagination would I have thought that my husband, who was rigid with money, was planning on getting me a car. Even though it wasn't an expensive car or the latest car, I was still excited. At that point, it dawned on me why I married Anton in the first place. He is a kind-hearted person. He put me first before everything. Even though he is very prudent with money, he makes sure I never lack anything. He provides everything I need, just that the quality of things he usually gets for me is not up to the taste or standard I want. Anton can just go to a random store and get me cheap dresses. I feel somehow wearing those cheap things while my mates wear designer clothes. This is what drove me into the arms of my ex-boyfriend James, but now after seeing the sacrifice Anton made to get me that car, I'm beginning to regret my actions. My husband is a good man and he doesn't deserve everything I have done to him. Even when I wasn't around to celebrate my birthday with him, he still went ahead to get me a cake and even a surprise car as my birthday gift. I know for sure he would be shattered when he found out I had been cheating on him with my ex-boyfriend, and that I even lied to him that I was going to a friend's wedding in Los Angeles just to travel to Maldives with my affair partner. I want to confess everything to him, but I don't know how to go about it. Do you guys think he would ever be able to forgive me? I need advice, guys. I'm in a state of a fiasco right now. Should I confess or should I just quit my relationship with James and pretend like nothing ever happened? Update. Hey guys, I'm back to update you guys on my story. I didn't confess to my husband that I was cheating on him with my ex-boyfriend. I was too scared of the aftermath of my confession that I chickened out. Call me anything you want, but I didn't want to lose my marriage and my husband. If Anton was financially stable, trust me, I wouldn't have had anything to do with James in the first place. I love my husband so much, he is too good to be real. I continued my affair with James, but deep down I wasn't happy. I already made up my mind to leave, but only after I graduated from college and also after the second trip to Maldives. James had promised to take me to Maldives on a one-week getaway after my graduation. He also promised to get me designer clothes for my graduation. So immediately after the trip from Maldives, I planned to just dump him and face my marriage. But unfortunately, things didn't go the way I anticipated. One day, Anton was out of gas, so he asked if he could use my car, so I gave him my car dealer keys. Worst mistake ever, Anton returned from the gas station, fuming and ranting. The first thing he did was to give me 3 dirty slaps. He dragged me outside to where the car was and started calling me all sorts of unprintable names you can think of. I was lost. I didn't know what was even happening. I couldn't even speak because everything seemed like a movie to me. When I finally opened my mouth, I asked Anton why he was embarrassing me outside. It was at that moment that he pointed to something in the car. When I finally got a closer look, I discovered it was a used protection. I wanted to deny it at first, but it wasn't just one. There were many inside the car. Sometimes James and I usually make out in the car. My husband hardly used my car since he bought it for me. We usually used his car. That is why I didn't bother to clean my car and throw out the protection. The look on Anton's face says it all. He was so disappointed in him. He stormed out of the house and told me I should leave his house before he got back. I tried pleading with him to forgive me, but he ignored my pleas and drove away. He arrived some hours later completely drunk. I was shocked to see him that way because ever since I have known Anton, I have never seen him that drunk before. Anton got hysterical when he saw I hadn't left. At that point, he became furious and started throwing out my luggage, clothes, and personal stuff one after the other. I couldn't believe my eyes because everything felt surreal. He threw my things out late at night and told me to get lost. I parked my things and tried putting them in the car so I could at least sleep in the car because it was late and I couldn't go anywhere that night. But to my greatest surprise, Anton took the car from me. He told me I must be a fool if I thought he would allow me to go with the car he bought for me with his hard-earned money. It was at that point I knew he was serious. I slept outside that night. I thought Anton would feel bad at some point and even call me, but that never happened. The following morning, I thought he was calm and sober enough and tried explaining myself and pleading with him, but he never gave me a listening ear. I got fed up, called a taxi, and left. I went to stay in a friend's place hoping Anton and I would reconcile our differences and I would move back in with him. I cut all communication with James because I still loved my husband and wasn't ready to lose him. My graduation day soon arrived, and to my greatest surprise, Anton came. I had sent him a message inviting him to my graduation. I told him it would mean so much for me if he was around because he sponsored me through school. I never expected him to show up, but he did. I was very happy when I saw him. Little did I know that he was there to steal my joy. After the graduation ceremony, Anton congratulated me and asked us to go grab lunch. I was on cloud 9 because I thought the universe was finally working in my favor. I just graduated and now my broken marriage is about to be fixed. I was beaming with joy. We arrived at the restaurant and placed an order. Before our food arrived, I wanted to apologize to Anton for cheating on him with my ex-boyfriend and to clear the air and also awkwardness, but he told me not to border that everything is in the past now. After that, there was a long silence. The waiter broke the ice when he brought our food. We ate in silence too. After we were done eating, Anton requested my certificate, which I collected a few hours ago. And stupidly, I gave him the file I was holding with my certificate in it. Before I could say Jack, my wicked husband tore the file into two. I stood up immediately and tried to collect the file, and he started to piece the file. Honestly, I thought everything was a joke or that he was trying to prank me. I stood there dumbfounded like a fool. I never imagined that Anton could be that evil. After tearing my file, which has my 4-year degree certificate in it with all my school documents, he brought another document from his bag, kept it on the table, and left. I quickly rushed and opened the document thinking he was pranking me or something, and to my greatest surprise, the documents he left on the table were divorce papers. At that point, I couldn't control my tears anymore. Honestly, I didn't know why I was crying. I didn't know if it was because of the divorce or the fact that my husband just tore my certificate alongside my school documents. Nothing mattered to me at that point. I started wailing. I didn't even care that people were watching. I couldn't believe that I was getting divorced and my 4 years of hard work had just been pieces before me. What was supposed to be the best day of my life became the worst. I decided to go meet Anton so he could explain why he had decided to steal my joy on such a remarkable day in my life. As I picked up my bag to leave with tears in my eyes, the waiter stopped me and asked me to pay before leaving. At that moment, it dawned on me that Anton didn't pay for the food before storming out of the restaurant. The worst part is that the money on me couldn't pay the bills. I was almost disgraced. I had to call a friend to help me sort the bills. I finally left the restaurant for Anton's place after my friend helped me transfer the money. I arrived at Anton's place and he didn't even allow me inside the house. With tears in my eyes, I asked him why he had decided to ruin my life. Anton told me this was just the beginning and that he would stop at nothing until he ruined my life. He asked me to sign the divorce papers and that the marriage was over. I knelt down and started pleading with him to forgive me, but he ignored me and shut the door. I didn't know Anton had become heart-hardened. One thing is for sure, Anton was no longer the man I married. He had become a monster because only a monster would do what Anton did to me. I left his place and signed the divorce papers. Update. Hi guys, I'm back to update y'all on what happened after I got divorced. So soon the divorce proceedings started, and since there was no child or property between Anton and I, there was nothing to drag. The divorce proceedings were soon over, and Anton and I moved on our separate ways. Before the divorce, all efforts by friends to reconcile us together proved abortive as Anton vowed never to have anything to do with me. After the divorce, it finally dawned on me that I used my hands to ruin my life. It was like I was starting all over again from square one. Getting another certificate was a long process because my stupid ex-husband tore not just my certificate, but all my school documents. I was depressed and didn't even know where to start. I couldn't even get a decent job because I didn't have a certificate. The thought of everything still hurts me till today. How Anton tore my degree certificate and all my school documents just because I cheated on him. Men are stupid. So the only way he could think of punishing me was to tear my 4 years of hard work. What happened to just divorcing me or something? Why does he have to make me pay for cheating on him in this heartless manner? The more I think of it, the more I become sad. I decided to go back to James since I was broke and needed money, but unfortunately for me, James had replaced me with someone else. When I met him at his house, he categorically told me he doesn't go out with divorces. I was shocked at how he was able to find out that I was divorced. I got another shock when he told me he was done with me because he had achieved his aim. He told me when I came back to him, he didn't love me anymore, but decided to play along because he wanted me to lose my marriage as a punishment for dumping him years ago. He reminded me of how I called him a cheat a few years ago, and fast forward to a few years later, I got divorced because I cheated on my husband. He told me how he thanks God every day that it never worked out between us because I'm a slut. The fool started calling me names. The sickening part was when he told me that all the stuff he got from me was not really designer, and that they were just imitations. He told me he would never spend a huge amount of money on gold diggers like me. At that point, I wanted the ground to open to just swallow me up. I never imagined James had ulterior motives for accepting to go out with me. I felt like a fool. I begged him to please forgive me for dumping him and accept me back so we could start all over, but he refused and called his security to chase me out. I left there feeling empty. I didn't know what else to do. My plan B, if James rejected me, was to sell off the designer stuff he had bought for me and go start my life all over again in a small city. And now hearing that those stuffs were not designers and just imitations broke me into pieces. I was shattered and confused and didn't know what to do. I went back home and cried myself to sleep. I continued crying myself to sleep for 3 days straight, and one day, I woke up and decided that I had cried enough. I stopped feeling sorry for myself because life happens. Don't get me wrong, if I should go back in time, I would do things differently. I wouldn't have cheated on my husband. But at this point, it was too late to cry over spilled milk because I was losing weight and I couldn't feed properly. I didn't even have money to afford some basic things for myself. I was living off my friend's generosity. I patted myself on the back and told myself enough is enough. I stormed the street and started looking for jobs. I was ready to do any job because I was desperate. Luckily for me, I found a job in a coffee shop as a waitress and started immediately. It's not something I would do on a normal day, but I know this is the first step in the right direction. I'm still working on getting my duplicate certificate from my college, but it might take a while. As for Anton, I never heard anything from him after the divorce. I hope he one day finds a place in his heart to forgive me for the heartache I caused him. I wish him nothing but the best. That's my story, guys, still trying to navigate through life. My life doesn't make sense right now, but I know this is just a phase, and one day I will overcome all the trials. Most importantly, I regret everything. I lost a good man because of my greed.